Seeing how they score their points has definitely changed my game plan because I have definitely integrated some of what they do into how I play to try to up my game. Because I'm very focused on fundamentals. Everything I do is about trying to better my fundamentals at the game. And I think that the European UK players are better at the fundamentals than we are.
Howdy friends, Craig here. We've got another Path to Podium, this time for a Vassal League event that Dan Brown out of the UK held earlier in the summer. Had players from all over the world, and our three finalists after the elimination rounds, we have one from the US, one out of Sweden, and one out of the UK. For the final three rounds, we go step by step with what they brought, what was their philosophy, and what decisions led to their final placing. Pay close attention. We'll hear one of them make an argument that Reva is now a Tier 1 master. And at the very end, we talk about Gaining Grounds 1. What do they like and what are they wary of as far as the new strats and schemes? Enjoy!
Playing a tabletop strategy game allows you to unplug and test your skills against friends. Every week, Third Floor Wars delivers useful strategies, discussions, battle reports, and reviews to tabletop games like Malifaux. If you want to get better at the games you already play, or discover the games other people are playing, you are in the right place. Craig and Ray welcome you to the Third Floor and the Tabletop Talk broadcast.
Craig here on the Third Floor. Today we're talking to the Podium for a recent Vassal League worldwide event. Dan Brown organized the entire league. Players played in their respective leagues, and then it culminated in a 3-round finals to crown the winners. My guests are the Podium from those final rounds. Bryan Bauer won the event. He's a player out of Texas. You might remember him from our coverage on the Las Vegas Open. Alexander Sälldin is out of Sweden, who placed second, and Oliver Hedges out of the UK placed third. So, Bryan, welcome back to the Third Floor.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So, Bryan, I need to find out what you have been doing during lockdown to keep the gaming sword sharp.
I've been playing a lot more Malifaux than I was before lockdown.
Isn't that something?
Right. It's like I used to play one game every week or every other week, and now I'm playing probably 3 games a week. We just started playing in the World Cup, and so Nick, Andre, and I are probably practicing way too much for all those games right now.
So, who's going to carry the water for Nick?
It's going to be Andre for sure, by far. Our goal is to get Nick onto your podcast, or to carry him here. We got it.
Well, so Nick actually, he will be on the podcast because I'm doing a actual play RPG sessions with some patrons, and he's one of them. And we'll be broadcasting it, so you'll get to not only hear him, but you'll get to hear him playing an RPG character. So it doesn't get much nerdier than that.
Perfect. It just sounds like Nick.
Yeah, no, Nick's a good guy. He's not great at the game, but he's a good guy.
No, not at all. But he's good. He's fun.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot better. So it's good.
Considering where he started, that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my God, poor Nick.
Oh boy. So Alexander, welcome to the Third Floor.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So Alexander, I'd like to find out kind of how you found tabletop gaming and specifically Malifaux.
Yeah, well, it started young. A friend picked up some 40K models, Space Marines, and we had some, pretty decent understanding how the game mechanic worked. But when you're young, you live in Sweden, it's not your primary language to speak English. Yeah. So we kind of never did figure out how to balance our games with points and stuff. So we kind of lost interest pretty quick.
Well, in fairness, Alexander, even if you have the same points at 40K, by no means is it balanced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I started up with 40K again about 10 years ago, something, and played quite competitively, as much as you could in the northern part of Sweden. But I got a bit tired of it and started looking around for other games, and that's when I first got in touch with Malifaux. It was a couple of persons at the club playing, just walking by, and the thing that caught my interest was the cheating and the triggers that you had to have and all the stat cards. That was the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with the aesthetics of the game before I even had the chance to try it.
So, Alexander, I'd be curious to know because, I mean, the rules, especially on the cards, can get pretty involved and intricate with Malifaux. Is it a huge challenge with English being a second language of trying to suss through and really figure that all out?
Not really, not for me. I've been playing Magic the Gathering since I don't know when. So ruling is probably the least worrisome for me. But it does come sometimes when you have to, rules contradict each other, and it was far worse in second edition than it is now in third, so it's not a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, by no means is it perfect yet, but boy, oh boy, compared to what we were facing in second edition, I completely agree.
Absolutely.
Completely agree.
It's much better.
Yeah. So, Oliver, welcome to the third floor.
Hi.
So you get the same question, my friend. How did you end up finding tabletop gaming in Malifaux?
So my dad was super into board games, role plays, a small bit of wargaming. So basically, as soon as I could talk, I was sort of playing games. I think I had my first Warhammer model when I was 5 or so. And I played games up until uni, where I sort of dropped wargaming due to lack of time. And then in my last year, I was, feeling a bit nostalgic for it, and actually started watching Ash Barker, who you've had on the show. And he just got me so excited for Sony games, as he's wont to do. And then I found there's a big Malifaux community in York, which was my hometown. So when I went home for a year, I picked up Malifaux and played it massively, and have done ever since.
Yeah, that's a good group up in York.
It was. None of them play anymore.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that had folded, that group.
Yeah, completely gone. There's a few who play occasionally still, but the group is kind of gone.
Was that, did you guys just lose them between second and third?
Yeah, most of them went sort of end of second. I actually moved down to Oxford fully, so was out of the group before it fully sort of imploded.
Gotcha. So, guys, we're going to talk about these gentlemen's performance in these final rounds of the league to kind of understand how they took the podium. We're going to find out some of the key moments in each of their matchups. We'll find out what they brought to each of the matchups. But before we launch into that, Bryan, it was a pretty unique structure, right?
Yeah, it was.
So kind of walk us through. Give me an overview of how Dan kind of built the entire thing.
So it was sort of based on regions. Each time zone really played within themselves to figure out who was number one inside their time zone. And then you would take the top of each time zone and have them play against each other in order to narrow it down to our podium. That required me actually beating Andre for the first time ever. So that was
nice.
Great. But I mean, it was over, 4 months of games, just grinding them out. I think the person I played in my third round played 9 games, and it was one game every 2 weeks, essentially.
Got it. And did you find yourself, so did you have like 2 weeks of prep for each match? Yeah.
So you knew going into each one what all the pools were. And most people were declaring master ahead of time. That way you could sort of strategize beforehand. I think most of our games in the podium, we may have declared lists a couple days early.
Nice. Which
is unusual for Vassal games and Vassal tournaments from what I've seen, but it allowed a lot more of that second level thought going into the games.
So, Alexander, I'd be curious with that type of format versus, say, you get across the table and maybe you've had a day to prepare it for a tournament with a list, or the person declares their master right there at the table. What for you, as far as getting ready, was there a huge difference in having all of that time?
Oh, the horror. the options and the second guessing of everything you think about. You know what they have, and then you make a list, and then maybe not this, and then you make another list, and it can be really annoying. You play mind games with yourself, trying to
end up beating yourself,
out,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to figure out the optimal list when instead you maybe should have just gone with the first instinct.
Yeah, and what you're familiar with.
Yeah, exactly. But it still makes up for if you declare lists early and you can study your opponent's crew. That's as Bryan said, it makes up for a lot of lost time, and you don't get surprised as much.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I like it, but it still misses a little from the game experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, Ollie, obviously we could sit here and list all of the things that make playing in person better and playing in a, actual live tournament with human beings. What makes that a better experience. But I'd be interested in your mind, Ollie, what are some benefits to kind of doing this as an online tournament?
So I think there's the benefit to doing an online tournament in particular is just the range of people you can play against. And I think that's just a Vassal benefit in general. We're three different time zones here, like UK, Europe, and North America, and we play against each other. Normally you don't get out of your meta, and even though the UK meta is quite big, what I find is playing on Vassal, you see completely different stuff to even being in a big meta, what you would be used to.
What did you find? Was there something that you would categorize that was unique about playing the Americans? Do you think there's a fundamental style difference between, say, UK players and US players?
That's hard because US players are all split into their own metas as well. So it does depend on which US meta you focus on. One thing I find is I think UK meta tends to play in keyword stuff a lot more than people I play in Vassal often do. But normally we'll have maybe one out of keyword pick or one or two versatiles unless you're playing Thunders. Where it's certainly in the World Cup currently we're playing against sort of full crews of out of keyword and versatile, which is a big depart.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, the longer we are with three, when people start learning when that tax is worth it. Here's the thing, as far as I'm concerned, until Gaining Grounds 2 comes out, towards the end of Gaining Grounds 1, we're going to start seeing the same lists again, because that's just the nature of the beast of how these games work, right? I think even then it'll be more varied than the all-star lists that we saw at the end of 2. I think that's part of the beauty of the keyword system and the tax. But it's just our nature as players, and as we communicate with each other and we face different things, you find stuff that's above and below the curve because it's just not chess. So I can totally get that. Bryan, how about for you? Playing, obviously within Texas is one thing, but playing a lot of Vassal, is there anything stylistically you've picked up and noticed about UK or European players?
There's been nothing that I've seen globally that I could say, oh yeah, all UK players do this one thing, because I've played some really good UK players. I've played some really bad UK players. Ollie's, him and I used to play in second edition. He actually fine-tuned my Nicodem list way back in the day. I think we played 4 games in maybe 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it was playing against UK players has definitely helped my gameplay, because I guess I could say that they play for points in a less aggressive stance than the Americans do. So they'll go more for the pushes and the small little nudges to try to eke out those points, whereas our meta is very aggressive about scoring points. So we're going to go there, kill you, and then score our points. So we do have to adjust to try to play their game as well as bring our aggressiveness to the game.
Well, and I would imagine, Bryan, seeing that in action would be helpful because if they go in, if someone is going in with that mentality, they can often see plays that are missed by the more aggressive player, right? If the more aggressive player is just like, look, if the model's gone, it's not going to score, so I'm just going to wipe the model off. But if you're stylistically looking a little bit different, you can see some of those. Well, if I activate this, then this. Or if I wait till they activate that model, you can probably see some interesting combos.
Correct. Yeah, there's definitely some really cool combos that they've brought to the table, and seeing how they score their points has definitely changed my game plan because I have definitely integrated some of what they do into how I play to try to up my game. Because I'm very focused on fundamentals. Everything I do is about trying to better my fundamentals at the game. And I think that the European UK players are better at the fundamentals than we are.
Very nice. Very nice. So guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back from this break, we're going to talk about the first round of the event. Like I said, we're going to walk through step by step and talk to each of them about their matchups. This is the round 1 quarterfinals. It's a standard recover evidence pool. We'll be right back. Howdy friends, Craig here. Nothing makes Malifaux easier than having the right tools. Here at the 3rd floor, we love all the licensed Malifaux goodies from Custom Meeple. Not only are they helping support this podcast, they sell custom-made weird licensed tokens and terrain. They sell it all. Crew boxes, terrain, markers, tokens, and even a 3x3 full Malifaux board. Custom Meeple sells a complete M3E token set covering every marker and token you need to play. Custom Meeple are the source for the official accessories for Malifaux. Everything is designed by hand and authorized by Weird Games. Check them out at custommeeple.com, that's with one M, or follow the link in the show notes. Up your Malifaux game and be sure to tell them Craig from the 3rd floor sent you. If you use the promo code 3rd floor friend, all one word, THIRD, you'll get a 5% discount and help support the podcast. It's valid on everything except retail products and playmats. So this round 1 quarterfinals, these guys all had different opponents. Like I mentioned, it's a standard recover evidence pool. The schemes were Hidden Martyrs, Take Prisoner, Research Mission, Leave Your Mark, and Vendetta. So Ollie, I'd be curious to know, first of all, what did you bring to the match?
So I was running Fixed Master Hoffman for the entire league. So I brought Hoffman.
Well, Arcanist or
Arcanist.
Guild? Arcanist, right.
The only way to play him.
Yeah, kind of, unfortunately. So I'd be curious, Ollie. So you brought Arcanist Hoffman, and who'd you go up against?
I went against Landon Sheehan.
Mm-hmm.
Not someone I think I'd played before, but was a really lovely guy. And he was running 10 Thunders McCabe, which is a very scary
that's tough
to play against.
So final score?
Final score, I think, was 6-5 at the end of round 6. So there's an interesting rule in this. Because it was knockout, we couldn't have a tie. So we tied, it was either 4-4 or 5-5 at the end of round 5, and we're frantically messaging Dan saying, like, what's the rules for extra rounds? And luckily I was just in a more commanding position, really, at that point. I'd just taken off a few more models, so could really hammer home that advantage in round 6.
That's interesting. So obviously you couldn't have ties. I'd be curious to know how often that came up. So obviously a real tight game, Ollie. In your mind, what made the difference? Why were you in a better? So obviously it was really a tie, kind of, right after 5 rounds. Yeah. But what was the condition at the end of turn 5 that you think turned into a win for you in turn 6?
I'd just been progressively basically taking his models off, and he had been really holding on, other than a few points here and there, like really sort of holding on to it. So it was just that extra turn of advantage. There was one mistake where he had a Sun Ching and a Terracotta Warrior with Silent Protector doing that you can't kill either of us thing, where it's take the hit, place, heal 1.
Right.
Bedside manner, and just doing the unless you've got some way of doing area of effect, you can't get through it. And at one point he just didn't spend a resource when he should have. So I managed to take one of them out and break that. Really sort of gave me an extra leg up as well.
Yeah. Well, nice win, my friend. Alexander, what did you bring to the round one?
I brought Lucius in Neverborn.
Oh, Neverborn, yeah. Lucius, look at you.
Yeah. And I got to go up against Matthew Joestar, I think he's an American player. He took Colette with a bunch of versatiles, as seemed to be the standard way of playing Colette nowadays. So actually, we managed to get a tie on our game as well. So things were really even. It was a really close game. We both got some points in recover. It was kind of a low-scoring game. And going into the last round, we each had like 3 or 4 models, and we managed to tie. And then we actually had to play 2 rounds in order to finish. So rounds 6, we also tied. We had like a fight of whomever could kill the most models and who could pick up the evidence markers, and a race to dish out as many markers for leave your mark as we could, and still trying to deny the opponent the same thing. Since he had the mechanical rider, Colette and Envy left, and I had like a Changeling, Lucius, False Witness, Serena Bowman, I think. And he took out my scheme, my False Witness straight away, which led me into a kind of bad position. But I managed that round to kill Envy, and then do a kind of weird play with the Changeling Lucius to actually, I think, kill Colette.
Oh, wow, nice.
And remove her scheme marker to tie the game. Otherwise, I would have lost. And then round 6, it was just try to beat the mechanical rider.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, well, first of all, so if you guys are playing, at turn 6, turn 7, were you allowing scoring for the strategy for those rounds as well?
As long as I think the thing we got from Dan was that we score as normal during the round, and if it still is a tie, you remove all points scored during that round and just start again from the position of the board. That was what Matthew got from Dan. So that's what we did. And because of that, the evidence markers that we picked up would be removed. So in the end, you couldn't score anymore from evidence if you didn't have enough on the board. So I think
very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Bryan, what did you bring to the matchup?
I ran Riva into Stuck. I played against Atticus Porter. Really good player. Unfortunately for him, I did win 6-5. I barely eked out that win. So my list, I brought Vincent because he's really, really good at sniping out the summons.
Yep.
And then I also brought Anna Lovelace as my out of keyword pick. The reason why I brought Anna is not only is she really good with Riva in general, but also because her bubble stops the valedictorian's placement. She stops by your side. She stops summons, and she prevents his models from giving out fast. And she actually prevents you from removing burning, which came into play, I think, once. So I brought her as my out of keyword pick, and it was really, really good for me. Part of the problem for him is that Stuck is my main master. Right. And so I could predict all of his moves before he made them. Yeah. I knew everything he was going to do, every opportunity. And it just allowed me to outmaneuver him and outplay him.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when your opponent is as familiar as you are with the master you're playing, because that can make a huge differentiator. It's why I always tell people, don't just listen to the deep dives of the masters you play. You're gonna do a better job against these masters by hearing how they're played. So it's interesting, Bryan, to have arguably the weakest Reser Master against arguably, or maybe not arguably, the strongest of all the Reser Masters. So what are you finding that's working for Reva now? I would assume it has a lot to do with the post errata.
Yeah, she's definitely not the weakest master anymore. I know I did run her into LVO, and she was she was one of the bottom tier at the time.
Yeah,
I would say she's probably number 2 behind Stuck.
Really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous her power level now.
And where's the difference? I mean, in your mind, what's the big difference?
The big difference is that she is now in positives on every single flip that she does.
Yeah.
So your average flip off of just a deck of cards is a 7. When you get a positive flip, it's a 9.
Right.
So she's hitting more attacks with her stat 6, 3, 4, 5. She is able to survive more because she's now effectively defense 7. And then she can also just burn through her deck to get those really high cards more often. Previously, when I was playing her, I didn't really care too much about pyre markers. I thought it was a fool's game because burning, what's that do? Now with the burning, it actually matters. So my guys are walking to pyre markers. I'm abusing that burning all over the place, using take the hit a lot. It's a really devastating combo that I've found with her.
Well, and one of the challenges that I had with her, I haven't played her post errata, but pre errata, what I found very challenging is the hand pressure. She had a ton of hand pressure, and now when you have all of those positives, that's got to make a big difference on relieving some of that.
Oh, it's huge. And then also because you don't have to pitch a card to summon the Corpse Candle anymore, that's right. One less card you're losing a turn. So yep. I can actually field a lamp pad because I now have that card to resummon him. I can now use Vincent's Rapid Fire. And then also with Anna, she does give you 2 cards a turn, minimum. Mm-hmm. Sometimes 3 or 4 if your enemy's going hard on her. So I don't feel that hand pressure anymore. And once that disappeared, she's gross. It's amazing.
Well, I'm going to have to try her now. It's very convincing. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we get back from this break, we're going to talk about round 2, the semifinals. It's a flank public enemies pool. We'll be right back. Howdy, friends. Here on the 3rd floor, you'll find us playing Malifaux and other tabletop games using Mats by Mars. Their mats are scratch-resistant, waterproof, wet erase marker compatible, and lighter than neoprene. Their mats use a new material that eliminates almost all glare, which is perfect if you're filming battle reports or you're under some glaring lights. Mats by Mars gives you over 40 designs to choose from. Pick a mat size, pick a print or design, and then choose an overlay for Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Legion, or even Malifaux 3rd Edition strats and schemes. The overlays will speed up your deployment and the placement of all of your objective markers. Until the end of September 2020, you can use the new promo code 3rdfloor920 to get a 10% discount on your next order. The promo code is in the show notes. When you place your order, don't be afraid to tell Mats by Mars you'd like a 3rd Floor Wars logo to be put on your mat at no charge. It's the only way to make the best mat in the market even cooler. Again, use the promo code 3rdfloor920 to get a 10% discount. All the details are in the show notes. So round 2, we've got a flank public enemies pool with Take Prisoner, Runic Bindings, Hidden Martyrs, Catch and Release, and Spread Them Out. So you soloed Reva and won the whole thing, right, Brian?
I did not, unfortunately.
What did you bring for this round?
I did bring Stuck.
Okay.
It was Stuck versus Ma Tucket.
Oh, wow.
Radic and I played probably about a month previously as a fun game, and he brought Ma into a very similar pool. And Reva just gets stomped on by Ma and all Bayou, so I couldn't play her. This game was a little weird. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. It was one of those where we reveal lists probably a week early. And no, never mind. We revealed Masters a week early. And I was going crazy trying to figure out how to counter Ma because I'd never won a game against Ma before this. So I took Hidden Martyrs and spread them out, and the Hidden Martyrs on the Necropunks, figuring
Makes
that
sense.
he'd kill one, but the other could get away and come back at the last turn to score a point, which is what happened. The thing with Ma is she's very aggressive, and Stuck is also aggressive, but Ma's better at it.
Yep.
And so I really threw him off guard by not leaving my deployment zone turn 1. I moved maybe like 4 or 5 inches out, but I didn't do the valedictorian dive like most people do. And I forced Ma to walk to me to try to score points. The idea was with the pool and the strategy, he had to come to me and I didn't have to go to him because my Necropunks could jump over there, score more points, and I'm in the lead. So he would have had to walk to me. He did bring a whiskey golem and sparks, which I thought was very weird, but they're big beady models. They're terrifying. It was a really weird game. I forced him to move up. He loaded up whiskey golem on turn 2 with shielded, focused, poison, all the conditions. It was fast, focused, and shielded. Stoke walked up, took all that off, and damaged him. And then Anna walked up and punched it with a red joker for 6 damage and killed it. So overall, like once that happened, it was just a slow bleeding game for him, and I ended up taking it 5-2.
It's it can be a very a good, interesting approach. I'm going to say it this way. So several weeks ago, we put out an episode on how to deal with alpha strikes. It was a guest episode someone had sent in for us. And that's one of the cases that's made in that episode is, when you're an aggressive crew and you're up against another aggressive crew, forcing them to come to you allows you to set up, it allows you to place the table. And while they're spending AP walking and flying and coming to you, you're spending AP concentrating, building up focus, doing other things and putting things in position. And it can be interesting. And what's great about Gaining Grounds 1 is that for a lot of the schemes, to score, you can't stay unengaged. You've got to come over. So very nice. Nice win for you, Bryan. So Alexander and Oliver, you guys played each other.
Yeah, that is correct.
So Alexander, what did you bring?
I brought Pandora this time.
Making friends, right?
Exactly. She's great for that occasion. So the list was Pandora, Poltergeist, Hinamatsu because of the lures, Candy, Iggy, Sorrow, and I think it was the effigy with the Fate upgrade, and one Lyssa.
And Ollie, what'd you bring?
Fixmaster Hoffman.
I knew that.
Running a pretty standard Hoffman build. Melissa, Joss, a Guardian with magical training. I threw in the effigy, was probably the only tech pick to try and give me some more condition removal. Actually, it probably ended up hindering me in the end because of Pandora's ability of making it activate when I didn't want it to. Yeah.
Well, I also would imagine too is the fast game that you can play with Hoffman is mitigated now too, right?
Like the loss of conditions, really. Like I wasn't quite sure how to play against Pandora. I'd not really played against her before, so.
Oh, that's tough. The first 3 or 4 times you play against Pandora is not fun. She's beatable, but you can't read her cards and go, okay, I know how to go up against this. You have to see it on the table. And if she's being piloted by somebody who's familiar with her and good with her, it's tough. So, Ollie, in your mind, what do you think was the differentiator? What led with the biggest factor in the results?
So the biggest thing happened top of turn 2. I think Alexander and I actually talked about this at the end of the game. But turn 1, Melissa ran forward with fast and focused and everything. As for the last activation, and sniped out the Poltergeist.
Wow.
And then turn 2, I ran her away, but rather than double walking, I decided to take one parting shot. Because really, killing the Poltergeist was just going to put me ahead, and Alexander was going to have to come and play my game as you were talking to Bryan.
Yep.
But I left it just a little bit close, and then Hinamatsu was able to pull her in. And after that, I had to go into Pandora's bubble, which was really sort of the end of the game.
We both, I think, had a we thought about playing defensively, both of us. And when Oliver did the thing, he just blasted the poltergeist with one shot, I think, off the table. I realized quickly that I can't play this game, but he can. So I needed to change up my game plan. And I got a chance to lure Melissa. I didn't kill her that turn, but I brought her down the second turn, third turn. So, and then and there were just a lot of models in the middle, and Pandora could just waltz right in and start commanding who's going to activate.
Yeah, credit to you on that, Oliver, because target priority wise, that was a perfect target to go for. And I feel for you, man. It's hard when you've got the shot, not taking the shot. It's so hard.
And unfortunately, you have to kill the poltergeist with Pandora. Like I will red Joker that thing all day because that will ruin your game.
Yeah, no question. But you know, it sounds like, Oliver, in hindsight, you think the better play would have just had, you know, Melissa Core just run. But I've been in that situation where you're like, oh boy, and especially with somebody with the firepower that model has, I can feel for you. So at that point, then, Oliver, you're knocked out, right?
So I'm not knocked out. There's a fourth place playoff where I play against Radic.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. So so essentially a double knockout, or?
It was only to see who got third. So because they both got knocked out, it was just play for third.
Got it. Very cool. So guys, we'll take a break and then we're going to talk about the finals. Finals, we have a flank Symbols of Authority pool. We'll be right back.
Hi there, this is Owen from the Nova Open, and I am a $5 patron of Third Floor Wars because I love supporting the whole Malifaux community. I want to help Craig and the whole Third Floor Wars team continue making the fantastic content that gets me through my daily commute. You should join me in supporting the show. Just pause this episode, head to patreon.com and search Third Floor Wars, or grab the link in the show notes. See you there.
What is it worth to you to get this podcast on a weekly basis? Is it worth $1 a month? $5 a month? $20 a month? If you'd like to help support the work that we're doing here on Third Floor Wars, please go by our Patreon. We're at patreon.com/Third Floor Wars. There you can pledge at any level, any dollar amount. Whatever you give us will help us put out quality content on a regular basis and hopefully make tabletop gaming a little bit better for you every week. The reason we're able to bring you this podcast every week, as well as all of the content on our YouTube channel and via our Twitch, is because of the 110 patrons that help support us. I want to give a special shout out to these patrons who are the ones that have given us the most since the start of our Patreon. So big thank you to Nick Westbrook, Craig Chuba, Kevin Smith, Stephen Morris, Sam Newman, James Hahn, Ambrose Ingram, Jeremy Peace, Corin Soles, and Carl Lee. Because of you and the other 100 patrons, we're able to do what we do. Thanks. So final round after playing in this league and playing in this thing since 2020, like 2009, 2008 is when it started. But the culmination of all of this playing, both in league and in the final rounds. So like I said, flank Symbols of Authority. We have Hidden Martyrs, Spread Them Out, Runic Bindings, Vendetta, and Breakthrough. So, Ollie, let's talk about your so you played Redick, right?
Yeah.
Very good player. And you guys were basically competing for third at that point.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And so what did he bring? What did you bring?
So I brought Hoffman.
Right. Same list, though?
Pardon? No, it's slightly different. It's always been a similar sort of set of models. This time it had the Mech Rider in because that speed is so useful. But yeah, again, a Guardian, Joss, a Peacekeeper. So a very similar set of models. Redick.
So I'd be curious, before you head over that, Oliver, I'd be curious to know, as a Arcanist Hoffman player, what is the conditions that bring the Mech Rider, and what are the conditions that say I don't need the Mech Rider? I'd be interested to know how that decision's made.
So with Hoffman, I tend to bring 3 big models. And it's just deciding which ones are the most useful for that game. Joss basically always makes it because irreducible, positive to damage sort of shenanigans, so it's always great. The Mech Rider tends to come in when I need speed, either to sort of carry Joss up or to run off and do symbols or to hunt down scheme runners. I tend to bring the Peacekeeper or Howard for some beating. The Guardian makes it occasionally if I don't have a better target for magical training or want someone to take the hit for me. And then the rest of it's just filled with a few small models.
So it's just a matter of that pool of big point models. It's figuring out what the needs are, and it sounds like for the Mech Rider, it's really a mobility.
Yeah, definitely.
Got it. All right, so you have Hoffman, and what did Reddick play?
Reddick surprised me and brought Zoraida.
Oh, wow.
And he brought a very interesting list that had 2 Silurids and 2 Gators and Rami, because that's Raddick's crutch. And I can't remember what else appeared in that list. But basically, his game plan was very obvious. These small models that have stealth moving forward and acting as nodes for Zoraida to obey my tooled up models to kill each other. He really gunned for Joss turn 1. He moved up a load of models to try and get sight on him. And basically, every time he moved up a model, one of my big beaters ran up and killed it. Because I'd got the fast out, I got everything out. I just made sure that he couldn't get that obey to have Joss rampage in my back line. Right.
Yeah, and it with Hoffman's speed, I don't know whether that devalues that stealth, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But having the Peacekeeper, like even double walk charge in and use its base to block, and just get lucky on the damage, or not even that. Like I think one of them might have been down to 1 wound, but the 50 mil base kept the rest of the crew out of sight for me. Just so I could keep choosing when my models were going in, basically, and at the same time was winning model trades.
So do you think that the reason you won is you slowly took those nodes out and you basically just, instead of maybe focusing on Zoraida, you just got rid of her tools?
Yeah, definitely. Zoraida was, I think, going down when we called it at end of turn 4. But yeah, she was sort of hiding in the backfield around a forest. So by taking out the nodes, I really limited what she was actually able to do.
Well, that's a good round, Oliver. So now the big matchup for first and second place. We've got Alexander and Bryan. So Alexander, let's start with you. What did you bring in?
I picked Titania because she's
good.
Yeah, she's good. She herself is at least good. Her keyword, not so much, but they still have their moments. But I have been having trouble dealing with resurrectionists in the past, and Titania has been the one who has stood against them the best with her resilience and her speed. That's why I picked her, essentially. And the list consisted of Sälldin, Effigy, Mysterious Effigy with a Fate upgrade, Hooded Rider, Autumn Knight, 1 Will-o'-the-Wisp, and Serena Bowman.
Very nice. So, Bryan, you're going up against Titania. When you find that out, what did you declare, and what was part of the decision making?
So I did bring Shtuk. I actually brought the same list I brought against Raddick, which I guess I didn't mention. Valedictorian and a Lovelace, 2 Necropunks, and an Undergrad. The Necropunks both had Grave Spirit Touch because I still think that upgrade is broken.
It's pretty good.
That's good.
Same idea. Hidden Martyrs on the Necropunks would spread them out. Still can drop a lot of scheme markers. Necropunks can just jump around everywhere and drop scheme markers, and then hopefully he kills 1 by the end of the game, and then the last one scores. He didn't kill 1, so I did win this game 7-5. But yeah, so that's what I brought. There wasn't really a lot of decision making that went into the list building. It was more of how to play against Titania and her threat range and her bubble.
And I'd be really interested to know what your thought process was. Well, first of all, how much time did you have between knowing you were playing Titania and actually playing Alexander? How much time did you have?
I think we declared a week. I think we declared a week in advance because we declared the day after we both won our games.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we declared the list like 2 days before.
Something like that, yeah.
Which was a whole nother level of mind games.
Yeah.
Because it was, okay, is he going to take Hidden Martyrs? Who's going to take it on? What are his options? How he's going to do this? What is his strategy to score points in this upcoming game? And I probably went back and forth with a couple of guys in the local meta. Probably really annoyed them with all my questions of like, oh, well, what if he does this and this weird thing? And how do I counter this? And like Hidden Martyrs, do I kill the Will-o'-the-Wisp and Serena on the same turn to deny it? Or do I let them survive? Turns out it was on the effigy, so I misguessed that entirely. But it was a lot of back and forth to try to figure out what he was going to do and how to counter it, which is entirely different than playing live.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Alexander? What are you doing during that week and the few days when you knew his list?
Yeah, I also have a local player, my ITC teammate, who I terrorized. His main master is also from Stuck, so we talked a lot about it. And the only thing that kept coming up is the 19-inch threat bubble from the valedictorian, and how I shouldn't take models with like soulstone cost 7 or above, because that only will mean I get worse models facing against me. So it's pretty limited, the choices of models, and I don't really know if I did the right choices with some of them, like Auto Knights. But they did the thing, and they're pretty resilient, so they can at least take a beating from the valedictorian without dying first turn. And that was the main goal. Don't let him summon turn 1. Yeah, well, there's a lot of thinking back and forth. And I think I mostly focused on what I should take for schemes, and secondary, I thought about what I might face, because that is the thing I can control. And as long as I know how I'm going to play, I can counter any situation when it comes to it. And I tend to play better not following my own plan.
So that's going to be my next question, Alexander. So the game is over. You've lost the game. But if you're like me, what you do is you look back and you say, what were the opportunities? What are some things that I had agency over that I could have done that maybe not would have won the game, but maybe could have made a difference? And that can start with looking at your list. It can start, then you look at, your deployment. Then you start looking turn by turn in the decisions you make. So going back the next day and looking it over, what do you think are some things that you could have done or choices you could have made that maybe would have impacted the results?
Yeah, there were definitely some play mistakes, mostly at the end of the game when I realized it probably was over, but it was some apparent mistakes that were just so bad. And also, I kind of stuck both the Hooded Rider and Titania at the bottom left corner, opposite of my deployment, just so that the valedictorian couldn't get to them, trying to hunt down some Necropunk or at least stopping him from scheming.
Well, so, I'd also thrown a idol in that corner to try to bait him to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was some mistakes during the game. I had a pretty solid plan. I went for breakthrough and hidden markers, and I got 1 point in both of them. I should have scored at least one more point, I think, if I just made the last activations differently.
Yeah, I think he used his hooded to swing at my models rather than scoring the last point of breakthrough.
Yeah, and it was kind of to stop you from getting something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
So, Bryan, in the few games I've ever won in my entire life, and when I say few games, I mean very few games, I look back at those games that I've won, and there is always at least one or maybe more than one moment where I'm at my side of the table or on your side of the screen in this instance, and you go, oh crap, I really hope he doesn't do this. And when you realize that you've made a mistake, right, where you have put yourself in a position that makes you vulnerable, can you think of any time during this matchup where you were sitting there going, oh boy, I think I might have screwed up and I really hope Alexander doesn't take advantage of it?
I do that also in all of my games. Like, I think I actually learn more from losing my games than I do winning because I spend a lot more time analyzing.
Yep.
There was a point, I think he probably could have pulled out a tie. On turn 2, I killed the hooded, maybe it's turn 3. I killed the hooded, and the Gore turned into the hooded rider on the other side of the board, which I was expecting him to ride with me with the Auto Knight to move further into my deployment and start scoring points. He didn't ride with me with the Auto Knight. He moved the Auto Knight first and then moved over. And I think that denied him getting another idle point and then also slowed him down on his breakthrough.
Yeah. And actually, that was my plan. In my initial plan was to do it, but I had some epiphany that I probably could stop one of your schemes by doing it the other way around and still be able to do the thing I intended to. But
and then he realized after the point that he couldn't do it.
Yeah. So if I was going to summarize my losing career in Malifaux, it is exactly what you guys just talked about, because I can go into the match focused, right? Know exactly what I'm up against, got a game plan. It's all put together. Even at the beginning of each turn, I'm like, all right, here's what needs to happen. If I do this, this, and this, I think he or she's going to do that. And I'm in really good shape. 4th activation, I get some stupid idea in my head because I think some opportunities opened up and say, you know what, Craig, all of those great ideas and plannings that were a clear path to victory, let's throw that out and let's try this stupid idea and ruin it all. I mean, it's so hard to avoid that because, and it's part of what's the beauty of the game is this, because of the alternating activations, because of the depth and the board state changing activation to activation, it's hard to stay on your game plan because that can also lose you the game too, right? You also have to be flexible, but I can go through almost every one of my losses and show you the point where, for whatever reason, I thought this was a great idea. So I feel that like viscerally when you're talking, Alexander.
Yeah, that point of the game is usually after deployment for me.
Oh, that's a good time to do it. Yeah, it's obviously I'm a fanboy, right? And it's that stuff that I love, that I don't get in other games. In so many ways, Malifaux is forgiving and unforgiving. And I love that. I love that, there's tabletop games out there that if you make a mistake, the game is over. Right. You have, and really it's a game of who's going to make the first mistake, right? Or who's going to have the first bad roll, even for some of these
roll double
games.
Ones and blow up their leader.
Yeah, exactly. But with Malifaux, that doesn't happen. But when you have people of equal skill levels against each other, the levels of thought and processes and the ability to play and counterplay and recover. And, it's not, nobody loses Malifaux because of one mistake. Sometimes you think you do, right? Some of you say, it was that one flip, or I should have activated this model for. No, there's a whole series of bad choices that led to that bad choice or that, bad flip. And it's part of what makes this game, as good as it is, and why I think that, a lot of us really enjoy it. So, guys, what I'm going to do is we're going to take one more break. And now that we've got 3 excellent players on the pod, I want to talk a little bit more about Gaining Grounds Season 1. I've had this conversation with a couple other people, but it's always interesting to get some fresh perspectives, especially considering this is going to be some global thoughts. We'll be right back. Howdy, friend. Craig here. Is this episode making you realize you need to buy some models? Gadzooks Gaming is my favorite online retailer because of their large selection, killer prices, and great customer service. Don't you hate buying an entire crew box when you only need one model? Gadzooks sells crew box models individually and saves you a ton of money. They even have free shipping to the US and Canada if you spend $100 or more. Swing by GadzooksGaming.com and make sure you tell them Craig from the 3rd Floor sent you. All the details are in the show notes. So when we're recording this, it's late July. It's the week before the online Gen Con. So those of you listening, obviously got a chance to hear all about the Explorers and got to see our live stream for it. But for these guys, it's not the case. And you guys have now had, 6 months roughly with Gaining Grounds 1, but that doesn't really reveal how much it is because it's been so difficult for most of us to play. Now, Bryan plays 3 times a day, so he's obviously very familiar with it. But how about for you, Alexander? Now that you've gotten some games in with Gaining Grounds 1, let's start off with what you like about this set of schemes and strats.
I think they've actually managed to streamline the schemes quite good. It's hard to put together a scheme pool that is impossible for someone to do. That's at least my thought. You can, if you want, make hard scheme pools, but you have to really outdo yourself if you want to make it a little more challenging.
Yep.
But then again, there are some of the schemes that are virtually no one ever takes them, but they've done quite a good job in removing those auto takes that everyone always takes. In the last, you had everyone took leave your mark for what it's what's it called? That's the one where you dropped a scheme marker.
I'll look.
By a building or something.
Search for ruins.
Search the ruins, yeah. So they managed to remove some of those auto takes that everyone always took, but there's still some that's almost always viable, and that's what I like about this edition instead of the first one.
Is there anything that concerns you? Let's say that we now fast forward to the month before Gaining Grounds 2 comes out. What do you think that may not age well? So is there anything that you predict could be an issue with this group of schemes and strats?
No, I don't think that it's not anything specific that comes to mind. No, I don't think that. I think it's a pretty good one. The strategies might be in need of a little more refreshment. Right now, I think that both the public enemies and recover evidence are a bit too similar, and could just take something other in to change it up a bit. But other than that, I don't think there would be any issues of any kind.
So it sounds to me like, Alexander, maybe a wish list for season 2 would be to have strategies that are truly unique, that don't have the kind of overlap that you're talking about.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because now there's schemes that are probably a bit similar with the strategies, and the strategies need to be more defined, in my opinion.
So, Bryan, one of the things that I think is interesting about Gaining Grounds 1 is that we didn't ever really see before in Malifaux is just how difficult the second point on most, if not all, the schemes are. And I'd be curious to know whether you like that or not. Do you like that as an element in the game?
I really enjoy it, but I believe it makes it into a situation where it's a win more scenario.
Yeah.
Where either everyone's going to score the first point and then you're going to tie, or if you're already winning, you're going to definitely crush the second point. The second points isn't as hard as I originally thought they were. There's definitely a couple of schemes where it's really difficult, like Hidden Martyrs. Once you declare that second model, they know who to kill. Or not even kill, it's down to half-life, right?
Yep.
But overall, I really like the scheme pool. So I'm not really worried about the second point on most of them. I did try to start taking sabotage a bit more. The second point, that one's pretty difficult, especially on those larger pieces of terrain, because you can just drop a scheme marker. I'll at least see something like that change to where you drop a scheme marker within range of another of the scheme markers that are taking the points.
Nice.
To try to have some counterplay there. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the scheme pool.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you have the second point being as challenging as it is, right? Not impossible, but I can't think of a set of strats and schemes in all of my time in Malifaux where the ramp from point 1 to point 2 was that steep. What that does is it makes denial huge. And you said it without saying it, Bryan, right? That you get the 2 points, one from each of your schemes, those first points, and then it makes the strategy so much more important, and it makes the denial on that strategy more important, which I think is interesting.
It has a lot of back and forth play, which I love. I love the counter plays that everyone's doing, and it makes you think a lot more in game, which is easy when you're playing Vassal because you have a lot more time to play your games than in a tournament setting where you only have 2 hours to 2 hours and 50 minutes. And I think those tournament games where you only have 2 hours to play your game, that's when the better players start to shine more because they can assess those points of those denials a lot quicker and execute them, you know?
Yeah, your stronger players, not only do they tend to have more familiarity with their crew, more familiarity with your crew that you brought against them, but it has been my experience in talking to strong players from all over the world. There's a information process advantage where because of your knowledge base, you have the ability to take in information, process it, and put it into hierarchies faster and more efficiently than your opponent. And that can be what decides the difference. And Bryan, your point is a very good one, which is that becomes less important in Vassal, right? Because of the time. Right. So given enough time, we all can finally, do that level of processing. But when you're under the clock, like you are in a live tournament, it's the person who can assess the situation and go through that decision tree the fastest and most effectively is going to make a big difference. So that makes a ton of sense. Oliver, what's your feelings about Gaining Grounds 1? Are you a fan? Is it getting old already? Are you ready for season 2?
Overall, I'm a fan. The loss of the win more on strategies, I think, means I enjoy this set a lot more, and that they're a bit more varied. They're forcing me to play different masters, which Gaining Ground 0 didn't. I could basically run fixed lists for Gaining Ground 0, so I'm a lot happy with them. My big gripe with the set is public enemies. I don't know if many people have this gripe, but the demise replace sort of brokenness of it, but you don't score the points for killing demise replace stuff, and how that can really actually just make non-games happen.
Yep.
If you're playing against a levy crew that's built for it, you're just not getting any strat points, and it's just not a particularly fun game, even if you win it.
Or Dash with his mounted guard.
Mounted guard.
Yeah, or Dash on the mounted guard. Yep. It's something that we're very used to in a lot of other games, and we don't tolerate in Malifaux. So I completely agree with you. Oliver, there's one thing you said that I want to go back to. You said you don't miss the win more for strategies that you saw in previous. Can you kind of flesh out what you mean by that?
Sure. In all the Gaining Ground 0 strategies, there was this, you need to do 1 of this for the first point, 2 of this for the second point, 3 of this for the third point, 4 of this for the fourth point sort of style. And the problem with that was simply that, as Bryan was talking about with the schemes, like it becomes a win more thing. If you're playing against a good player, you're basically stalemating generally on like 2, maybe 3 points each.
Right.
If you're playing against a bad player, then you table them and destroy them. But it becomes harder to deny and harder to score each point, and it just meant, I think, for a lot of close scoring games when the table didn't actually reflect that. Whereas now with the symbols, you can pick one up a turn, and if you get behind, it's a bit easier to catch up. But it also stays the same level to deny and score.
Yeah, and like you look at recover evidence, right? And the condition for scoring and recover evidence is the same each turn. Where it does ramp a little bit is the number of tokens gets smaller and smaller as you go, but it's not nearly as ramped as what we saw in Gaining Ground 0. Well, gentlemen, congratulations. That's great. Are all 3 of you playing in the World Cup?
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully you guys will all come back on the show then.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see. We still got table there first, our first round.
Yeah. You guys lost to the UK team, right?
It's flipping weird. Yeah. Nick and I both lost our games, but Andre did win his against Jamie.
Yeah,
So,
I did see that.
So that was enjoyable. Yeah.
Well, Jamie's a lot easier to beat when he's never played the crew before, which I thought was an interesting choice on his part, going in with the matchup he had. Alexander, do you have any plugs or shout outs you want to put out there?
Yeah, I can shout out to our local players here in Umeå. They're pretty good players. Basically, our 2 ITC teams consists of 6 players here from Umeå. And also one of them, my teammate, runs a battle report channel on YouTube called Hexbag. Be sure to check it out if you like to watch some sweet Malifaux 3rd edition battle reports.
You guys have heard me talk about Hexbag more than once. Not only is the content really good, but he's a good guy. He's a good guy who just really loves Malifaux, and I think it shows in the amount of time and effort he puts into there. Because of the level of detail in those Hexbag reports, you become a better player by watching it because all of it's laid out for you, and the analysis that can be drawn from it is great. So, could not agree more. If you guys do not subscribe to that Hexbag on YouTube, it's at your peril. So, Oliver, how about you? Do you have any shout outs or plugs?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. You don't like anybody. That's fine. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, same thing. My meta is pretty awesome. I love all the guys that I play with. And my World Cup team is the best. We are constantly talking. I'm glad they put up with me because I have a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth. And I'm like, oh, guys, what about this new combo I just thought about? And, they're a great set of guys. And obviously, like Third Floor Wars is what I listen to all the time. So I plug you guys because I listen to your deep dives every single week you put them out, and I think that's what's helping me become a better player is knowing the crews that I never face in my meta.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. Well, guys, thanks again, and for those of you that stuck around to the end, thanks for listening. Take care. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch so you don't miss the avalanche of content we create. Links are in the show notes. Be sure to check out our shop on thirdfloorwars.com for the latest in gaming apparel and gear. There you'll also find the latest information for the US Faux Tour. Find out where you rank in your conference or even in the entire United States. Get those models built, painted, and ready so we can see you at the next US Faux Tour Masters event. Please take a moment to write a review of this pod on your favorite platform. Rating and reviewing helps us find more listeners almost as cool as you are. Be sure to share this feed with all of your friends who love tabletop gaming. Thanks for listening. Howdy folks, Craig here. Now if you love gadgets as much as we do, you're going to love the new Third Floor Wars Gadget Bundle from Schooner Labs. Branded with the logo of your favorite podcast, it comes with 2 measuring multi-tools, a compass stepper for those tight and important movements, along with a compact dashboard to track your turn, strat, and scheme scoring along with your soul stones and pass tokens. It is the perfect bundle for anyone who plays Malifaux or just wants to look cool while doing it. The link is in the show notes. Check them out and help support your favorite gaming podcast. So that makes a ton of sense. Ollie, how have you been? Try that again. Ollie, how have you been taking? That's still bad. How do I want to ask you this question, Ollie? Oliver, what's your feelings about Gaining Grounds 1? Are you a fan? Is it getting old already? Are you ready for Season 2? We'll keep this real short, guys. If you guys could just kind of give me your overview, what you like about Gaining Grounds 1, any concerns you have now that you've gotten a few games in. Mm-hmm. And then I'll probably ask you, at a high level, what you would love to see come into Gaining Grounds 2 eventually. So
I have no answer for that. I have no idea.
What do you mean you have no answer?
I focus on the here and now. I don't focus on the future.
I'm going to make you use your big boy brain. Okay.
No. I only use this in my games. Outside my games, I don't think. You crazy?
All right. Let's see. Alexander, I'm going to start with you if that's all right.
Yep.
Oh man, that's brutal, Oliver. That is a brutal.
Yeah, never seen Pandora on the table.
Oh, especially because you're sitting there going, "Oh, I took out the poltergeist."
Yeah, it's like, so tough. And to be fair, like Melissa got like, she was only on like the center line, and I moved her like 7 inches back or something. It's not like I really left her exposed. I just hadn't quite
Not really.
figured the Hinamatsu push up, get fast, like double lure in.
Yeah. I think
There's a reason we see.
Lissa might have lured as well. I don't remember, but I think so.
I think
So
your Lissa might have.
fine.
I think someone moved Hinamatsu up, and then Hinamatsu had fast from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then onslaught, so 6 attacks, 7 attacks with flurry.
Yeah, I mean,
That seems good.
I was keeping Monster alive, but I just had to then send stuff in. Like, rather than being able to play my game, I had to play Alexander's, and that was for like.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
That's
hate him
his
so
advantage.
much.
All right, so, guys, we're going to go backwards on this. So I'm going to start with Oliver, go to Alexander, and we'll finish with Bryan. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, I'll bring us back. Look at you, fucking Reva's the second strongest.
Oh my god, I will argue that to my grave. It's so good.
Better than Karai.
Better than Karai. I don't like Karai. Karai's fun because you can summon models, but I mean, she's great. I've never meshed with her. I can't
really
do it.
fucks me.
Oh, Vengeance is brutal.
Yeah, Vengeance is.
Yeah.
Kirai, if you come on the receiving end of it, you realize how much Vengeance really like forces your plays.
I mean,
same like Sparks.
it's like Black Blood at range.
In a way, it is. That's right, Bryan. It's a better version.
Oh, way better version. Other than them being able to force it on you, but then you just take focus attacks and then you take 1 damage for a big 5-point swing. I don't know.
All right, so I'm assuming you guys all won your round 2s, right?
No, Alexander and I played, and this is where I lost.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So Bryan, we'll start with you, and then we'll talk about Ollie and Alexander's round. All right, I'll bring us back. Very good, gentlemen. Very good.
I like that. Yeah, there's no difference between us. Oh, by the way, fundamentals. There we go.
They know how to play the game. We don't.
I mean, it's. I don't know. I feel like a lot of US players just don't focus on their fundamentals well enough.
I don't disagree with that at all.
I'd forgotten about those 2nd edition games, Brian. What was I running again?
Let's say again.
I'd forgotten about them.
You were also running.
Was I running
You're
Nicodem?
also running Nicodem. Yeah.
Oh, when we have the zombie swarms fighting each other.
Yes. Yeah. You ran the better Nicodem list than I did because I hated following the standard cookie cutter list that everyone was running.
All right, guys. So for this round, did any of you play each other?
Alexander and I played.
All right, so Ollie, I'll start with you, and then we'll do Bryan and Alexander's.
Okay, not we played in the finals game, so none of us played in the quarterfinal.
No.
Got it. All right, so you guys all
knockout. So
got it. All right, so I'll start with you, Ollie, then we'll go to Alexander, then we'll go to Bryan. How does that sound? The key here, guys, let us know what you played. You don't have to list your entire list unless there was some unique pick that you brought into the list because of the pool or the matchup. Then just talk about what made the match, right? So what were maybe 1 or 2 key moments that you think would, decided things and impacted the results at the most. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
If I can remember.
All right. Yeah, I know. It's been like 9 years? All right. I'll go ahead and bring us back. Hey, are you still here? Look, the podcast is over. And you sat through all of the breaks and bloopers? Well, I mean, if you're here, you might as well run over to patreon.com and become a supporter. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast too while you're at it, on whatever platform you're listening to. I do appreciate you sticking around. Take care.